Hey, what's guys? Today I'm playing a bit of DST, but I'm structuring the video a bit differently this time. This whole video is going to be post-commentary, just trying out something new here, switching it up a little bit, see if it works. So, yeah, day 21, the first day of winter. I didn't play this world for over a month between recordings, so I had no idea what happened in the last session, but apparently I died a lot considering my maximum health is now 38. My other two stats are looking alright for now, but that health issue is gonna have to be solved considering I'm now one-shot to damn near everything. I apparently had a spider's den on me, so I placed that down to keep a steady supply of monster meat coming in, and I walked over to the river in hopes of spawning these awful creatures. These are pengulls, but when they spawn, so does their nest, which comes with some free ice to mine. Now, if I wanted to solve my health problem, I was gonna need booster shots, but its crafting recipe requires 8 rot per shot, which I don't have. I decided to leave these ferns from the caves out to rot so I could eventually become strong again. Then I decided to work on sorting out the items I had because it was already getting to me. But not before making this nasty top hat, because I was going to need that later. I went to chop down some trees for chests and immediately began freezing to death because winter. My thermal sun alone wasn't going to be enough to protect me from the cold for long. I ended off the night by finishing the organization and throwing the ingredients for 2 plates of meatballs into the crock pot for morning. Day 22. I realized I in fact had a beefalo hat from earlier in the run, which is literally the best headpiece insulator in the game, so yeah, that's handled. I grabbed some meatballs and headed over to the mini glaciers to get myself some ice. Using only 1 monster meat from the spider's den and 3 ice from the glaciers, I can for some reason make myself meatballs. And now I bet you can guess how we're making food for the rest of this season. I decided I wanted to catch myself a couple of rabbits, but not for eating. They wouldn't be out until morning, so I set one of my traps above its home to check on at dawn. I removed the skeletons left behind by the deaths of my companions and myself, and murdered the slippery rats in their sleep. What? Day 23. I began day 23 by setting out a bird trap in order to get a bird from my cage. Speaking of traps, the rabbit trap I laid above the rabbit hole yielded nothing, but that's fine because I know a far more effective method. Rabbits are very skittish and will always attempt to run to their den when they are scared, unless the threat is between them and their den. By scaring the rabbit away from its hole, placing a trap between it and its home, and then scaring it once again, it will always run right into the trap, allowing you to pick it up. Nifty. I was able to catch 2 before evening hit and they all went home, but then I heard something. Uh-oh. Hounds are easy enough to kill with a couple of people, but I'm bad at taking on hounds alone, never mind with my maximum health being through the floor. I made a couple of tooth traps to help me damage them, but yeah, they killed me almost instantly, releasing the rabbits from my inventory, which was particularly annoying. As a reminder, this is an endless mode run, so I revived myself at the florid postern. The rabbits being released actually ended up being a good thing because the hounds began chasing those, which gave me enough of a window to gather my items and reset the traps. I tried separating one from the others by manipulating aggro, but they stayed together pretty well. I just decided to bait them through the traps again and actually managed to kill 2 of them before immediately dying. I respawned and died again, respawned, died again, respawned, finally killed them, and became a Wilson Popsicle. Pretty much the only good thing that came out of this encounter were the 3 blue gems I got from the ice hounds, but at least the hounds wouldn't send another attack for a little bit. Day 24. I chopped down a couple of trees and captured those 4 rabbits I needed in order to craft this, the Prestidigitator. This unlocks the magic tab, which will be useful later. Other than that, I just took the time to dig up the stumps from my tree farm and cooked up 2 more plates of meatballs. Day 25 started off great with me being immediately assaulted for having meat in my inventory. That was stupid. I retrieved my stuff and on my way back realized that the foliage had finally rotted. With this much rot, I was able to make myself 2 booster shots, which was enough to get me back up to around 75% maximum HP. I had enough rot to make more shots, but I was out of stingers. Those only drop from bees, and it being winter, I'm not exactly going to be seeing many of those out and about. My maximum health was increased, but my actual health remained low, so I threw in the ingredients to make myself some pierogi, a pretty nice healing dish. At this point, I was kind of just sitting around, and I couldn't really think of what I should be doing at this current moment in time, but then I remembered something. Deerclops. The beast of winter would be attacking in 7 days at most if I'm lucky, so probably sooner. I was going to need to prepare for this fight, so I headed to the caves. Deerclops is particularly problematic for a couple of reasons. First of all, you get very little warning to its arrival. You'll hear some distant groaning and then it will proximity spawn almost immediately after. Now, most enemies in this game seek to kill the player, but Deerclops is different. Deerclops is just a jerk. When it spawns in, Deerclops will simply seek to destroy all of the structures the player has made, and then will just leave, effectively resetting your progress. So essentially you have no choice to fight it before it does this. Fighting it entails dealing with its sanity aura of minus 400 sanity per minute, all while trying not to freeze to death. And it only has, 4,000 health, so I mean, no problems there, no problems there. So yeah, Deerclops is one big bad boy that will be coming shortly. Alright, that rant is done. I got into the caves where I was attacked by not only an unnecessarily long string of spiders, but also the damn ceiling. No, it's day 26 now. The reason I came down here was to search for the green mush tree forest, so that's what I began doing. The reason I wanted to find this biome was to get myself a lot of green caps. When cooked, green caps grant the player with 15 sanity for the minor penalty of 1 health. If I could stock up on enough of these, I should be able to counter the sanity drain of DRECUBED. I began wandering aimlessly in the depths of this world, doing my best to avoid the hazards that plague the below. One of those hazards being bunnymen. Bunnymen are completely passive to me, unless that is I happen to be carrying any edible meat, in which case the furry vegans will attempt to tear me limb from limb. I ran away from that creature and placed down a campfire to recharge my thermal stone. You've probably noticed that my sanity ain't looking too great, and that's because being down here comes with a constant sanity drain, which just increased the urgency of my search for the green mush tree forest, because I didn't fancy going insane at that particular moment. I continued my search as the menacing whispers of insanity began to rise. My hopes of finding the mush tree forest began dwindling, but I had to explore down here for other things later, so I couldn't just give up now. I ended up being pursued by battleists for a while, which made it difficult for me to check my map, but when I did I saw this, which is more important than it probably seems. That was a lichen plant, which meant that the biome over there was the lichen fields. The lichen fields tend to spawn pretty close to the entrance of the ruins, which is a very important area for later. And it's day 27. I didn't notice that. Well, if it hasn't been made abundantly clear by the edges of my screen doing the cha-cha slide, I was now quite insane. A couple seconds later met me with the red squiggles of uh-oh. This meant I was now properly insane. If you've paid attention, you've seen some shadowy creatures about on the floor. Well, yeah, those will attack me now. Fun. I frantically continued my search for green caps and ran into a depth swarm that probably would have one-shot me if I hadn't gotten out of its aggro range. I was so insane at this point that I decided continuing my search wasn't possible. I had to get out of there. Not to mention I had just used my last campfire. I began my mad dash back and ow! Didn't quite one-shot me, but it sure as hell hurt, which meant I was now one-shottable. My nightmares began pursuing me as well as Sonic the Hedgehog apparently, so I just kept running. I got to an area with a decent amount of light, so I decided to fend off my nightmares. Then my lights rudely went away, and this battlist decided I wasn't suffering enough. So I resorted to setting the civilian's house on fire to give me the light that I needed to kill my nightmares. While fighting them, the ceiling decided to attack me again, but I did end up managing to kill them. Killing crawling horrors restores 15 sanity per kill, but this still wasn't enough to get me out of full insanity. Regardless of my sanity problems, I had to keep moving, as my thermal stone would soon lose its charge. All I needed to craft another fire was one grass tuft, which I could find near the exit. I just had to make it quick. Day 28 hit as I continued my desperate sprint back towards the surface. My thermal stone was now completely uncharged, which meant I had less than a minute before I began to freeze to death. All I needed was that one grass tuft and I'd be home free, and in just the nick of time, I got it. This crawling horror showed up, so I killed it, which was finally enough to get me out of insanity. I exited the caves and made my way back to my base where I slept to regain my health and sanity. I had made it. While my escape from the caves most certainly felt like a victory, I had to remind myself that I hadn't actually achieved my objective. I was down in the caves for 3 days and came out nearly empty-handed. I didn't have time to waste. DRECUBED was to come within the next few days, and I was nowhere near ready. But hey, I got a Minotaur mitts, so Day 29. Green caps or no green caps, I had to do what I could to prepare for this fight. First of all, I was going to need some armor. Log suits were the best I could do at the time, so I spent the majority of the day and evening gathering the wood and grass I would need to craft a couple. It was about this time that I realized my thermal stone was about to break and I'd need a new one. The problem was that the nearest rocks were, pretty close. I decided to head over. A pretty well-known tip. A fully charged thermal stone gives off this tiny amount of light, which is apparently enough to stop Charlie from attacking you, which is pretty convenient. I reached my destination and began gathering myself a decent amount of rocks, along with some flint, niter, gold, and some ice. Day 30. You know, sometimes I get trashed a little for playing Wilson since, he doesn't do anything special. And to that I say, you are very much wrong. Wilson very clearly has telepathic abilities. Anyways, I made my way back to my base where I attempted to turn a pig into a werepig by feeding it 4 monster meat in order to kill it for the ingredients to make a new hambat. The pig ate 3 of the monster meat before deciding to commit suicide via spiders, which I was pretty bummed about. The spiders then shifted their attention towards me, so I was stuck killing them now. My vegan friend then joined in on the fight before running off into the sunset with that jumping spider. Some say they are still running to this day. At night, I crafted my extra log suit and realized I had the ingredients to make myself a new hambat in storage. I went out at night to gather myself more grass, and then I heard it. DRECUBED was early. I knew I had mere seconds before DRECUBED would spawn in. I was nowhere near ready, but there was nothing more that could be done. I placed down my fire and prepared to fight. Within a few seconds, there it was. DRECUBED. I immediately gained its aggro to stop it from going straight to my base and demolishing it. I began my attack, but after getting just a few swings off, I was already almost completely insane. DRECUBED landed a heavy strike on me, its icy swipe slowing my movement down to a crawl. I did my best to kite it, but my fighting skills were rusty. DRECUBED landed 2 more shots on me, and I was now completely insane. DRECUBED alone is hard enough, but trying to get hits off in between its attacks while also dodging the attacks of my nightmares was going to be nearly impossible. But I had no choice but to keep fighting. If I died here, DRECUBED would go straight for my base and set me right back to square one without batting an eye. I continued my attack, all the while trying to isolate one creature from the other, but their movement speeds were so similar it was no use. Another crawling horror joined the battle as I desperately tried to heal what little health I could with some spider glands. I figured if this thing was going to kill me, I might as well have it cut a few trees down for me in the meantime, but then something weird happened. Despite my sanity being literally 0, one of my nightmares despawned. I saw a window and ran up to begin fighting the other one, but it was apparently already at low health because it died instantaneously. This was my chance. I had but a sliver of health remaining. If I got hit once, it would be game over. I remembered the kiting pattern to be 3 hits and a dodge, 4 hits if there's no lag in your cocky, but I stuck with 3 hits as even that was pretty tight. I had to keep my movements perfect. I was awaiting the spawn of more nightmares, or for my thermal zone to run out, or for some random event to somehow screw me over, but none of that happened. It seemed the bad luck that had befell me in the caves had finally bounced back, and by some miracle, DRECUBED finally fell. It was on this night of the full moon that I realized I had conquered winter. I had done it. The greatest of my worries was behind me. The road ahead was long, but I had successfully cleared the first hurdle, and boy was it a big one. I made some food, fended off a few nightmares, and went to sleep. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Over the last few days of winter, I just stocked up on some basic resources, murdered some more rats, and killed 2 more clockworks to get myself some gears. On day 35, the snow finally melted, and thus began spring. But that is for another day. My name is DRECUBED, and I'll see you in the next one.